So for those of you who didn't join last time, I tried in about 2 hours to talk about the whole product system that we are using. And we ended up after talking about the email part and the personal knowledge management part. And I will share my screen. Here we are. That was the status of the last live stream when we ended it up. So we talked about Heptabase. We talked about Tana, Readwise, I showed you the tools as well. We talked a lot about email and using Superhuman in combination. There we talked about the difference between core application and satellite applications. This was the status last time. We also covered Miro. Miro is the application I'm using here. And this was it. And as you can see, there's still a lot left. And I also made very clear last time that what we covered on top, this tiny part, if you will, tiny, it is what most YouTubers and creators and methodologies even out there cover in a productivity system. Usually they only talk about the personal knowledge management and forget about the rest. And it is for a reason, because it is pretty complex to bring everything together and get it on a holistic view. And that is what makes the ICOR methodology unique out there, because we are able to look at a productivity system end to end, not only from a personal perspective, but also from a business perspective. And that's what we want to talk about today. It is going beyond the personal knowledge management and now covering the business knowledge management as well. What's the difference? And then talking about how to convert, how to transform this information into action and keep track of it, schedule your time and win back time, in fact, by having a proper system. Feel free to send any questions whenever I'm explaining something and you might have a clarifying question that might be useful. I'm here. So first of all, what's the difference between PKM, the thing that many people know going to YouTube, personal knowledge management, and BKM, the business knowledge management? It's important to understand the difference because there are blurry lines. And I always have to think about this when people complain, for example, that Heptabase. I'm not using Heptabase because there's no collaboration in there and I cannot share properly the things. And same for Tana. Yes, they have some capabilities. But the thing is, Paco and I, we never look for these things in a PKM tool. It is called personal knowledge management and it should be personal. I showed you last time a lot of personal things inside Heptabase that only are related to me. And I want to save in this space. Whenever I have my brainstormings going on, I can write whatever I want. I can lay out the things without being justified by the team or somebody external. How I do things. It needs to be my personal space that allows me to have this freedom to wrap my head around things that I then distill, refine, and move the final outcome into the business knowledge management system. And the business knowledge management system is the tool and the information that you share with the team. And now you solopreneurs, freelancers, consultants, you might now say, but I don't have a team, so I don't care about the business knowledge management. And what we recommend is always pretending that you're working with a team. It helps on so many levels. First of all, you're realizing all the hats that you're wearing in your business. Also, everything becomes scalable. So if you take on more work, you know already what you would actually delegate to somebody else. And now you will want to share something from, in my case, Heptabase, with the team. And we've changed just at the moment where if you don't have a team, it doesn't matter. Just pretend that you would have a team. That helps you also to realize not only how to scale your business, how to make you aware all the hats that you're wearing, but it makes you think about what is the information that is worth sharing. And therefore having a separate system where you share it in this system, which is right now empty here, all the information that you put in there will be refined. So therefore you're going from this here is refining information, it becomes more valuable. And that's the same reason why we split our knowledge between Heptabase and Tana. I talked about this last time. Heptabase is the deep thinking system and Tana is our shallow thinking system. And you could have both in one tool, but then it might clutter up because shallow thinking, there's a lot of things going on in your mind that you just write down that you want to capture. And this messes up your deep thinking part as well, because all these things are around when you try to focus on something. That's why we do this. It's not necessary for you. It always depends on the volume. The more information you have, the more tasks you have to handle, the more complex your system can become as long as you know what to do. And if you say one tool is enough and it's all bullshit you're saying there, then this is an indicator that you are not overloaded with work or with information. So here, the Readwise Read Later app is even even another layer where we have a shallow thinking, where we just have our FOMO satisfied or fear of missing out. Whenever I see an article or something I come across, I just send it there and I at least feel that I saved it somewhere. But in most cases, I never need this again. And therefore, I keep even my shallow thinking much cleaner. And there are a lot more tools that we are using, Paco and I, that are not even shown here. Talking about journaling apps and things like that. And if I would do this all in one tool, I would miss out on superpowers from other tools. So now, what tool do we use in order to share the information with the team or with the outer world? And this tool is, as you might have guessed already, ClickUp. ClickUp is something we are using since ClickUp 2.0 became a thing. When was this? 2019? I've been using ClickUp here in this space. And again, in the first live stream, I explained how this ICOR framework is built up. And when we place ClickUp here, it's placed in the BPM area, the business project management area. And that's where ClickUp was placed for a long time only. And in the BKM area, we used Notion. So by laying it out on this map, I immediately see, by just looking at the map, that ClickUp is used for action items and Notion is used for knowledge. And that made it easy to be clear what information and action goes in what tool. And that's what this map in the end should give you, right? That you exactly know what tools you're using for what. So for a long time, I was using those in parallel, but this comes with some drawbacks, obviously. I never believed that Notion is a proper project management tool, and a lot of people will argue with me about this, but again, it's all about volume. I know that even Paperlike, for example, they are using Notion for their project management. I don't know if they still do, but at least back then they did. And to me, that there's not even an option to have recurring tasks, which they might have now, was always an indicator this is not a proper project management tool. I cannot have proper task management in Notion without setting it up manually in some way or form. Whereas ClickUp was built from the ground up with action and project management in mind. And this was built up on a database level. So it was databases, cross-connecting databases, managing information. And that's why I loved Notion back then. But ClickUp tried to catch up with their databases, and they are allowed now cross-connection of information. They had docs in there. They improved the ClickUp docs and things like that. They never reached the level of Notion, not even today, of Notion when it comes to the UI UX in creating docs and having the pages and so on. It is not made with this in mind. However, every information I collect in here is work-related, and therefore I prefer now to have the information from my BKM system directly connected with my action system. So back then I started using things like Unito, which are tools that two-way synchronize the databases and things like that. But not only this is messy if automation stops working. The question is also, why would I want to have duplicated information in here? And third, when you grow a team, you have to train them on two tools. Also, it's hard enough in tools like Notion and ClickUp. Both can be really complex if you want, and they make it easy to make things overly complex. If you're not clear about how to set up Notion, how are you clear to make ClickUp work? And then you have two messy systems in the end that you try to work. So I decided that ClickUp excels Notion when it comes to project management, no doubt. And it is good enough for the business knowledge management to work for our use case. And therefore we made the decision to remove Notion. So now that ClickUp became also the knowledge management system, we place it here because, as I explained last time, here's the overlap of business project management and business knowledge management indicated by the two icons here, and these are the overlaps of these two circles. So we place ClickUp here, indicating we are using ClickUp for both. So now, getting back to the discussion, what's the difference between personal knowledge management and business knowledge management? And for example, writing our book, the ICOR Journey book that got just published in October this year, and it started all on a Miro map, okay? And inside ClickUp in the idea incubator. And let's go to ClickUp to check this out. It's no longer there, obviously, because it became a project, but here's the idea incubator, and that's something that you learn in the project management like a pro course, where you learn how to manage ideas. And here's the ideas that we have to be planned someday maybe. You also learn when to convert these into projects and so on. That's not the topic for today. However, there was the ICOR Journey book sitting there as an idea. And the moment we finished the other projects, we just had to go here in order to know exactly what to do next. So this became a project, and it is now here in the projects folder. There's the ICOR Journey book, and there's still one task in there that is open, which is our post-launch campaign. So there are still tasks to be finished for this. And we have here an overdue, doesn't matter because nobody is assigned. It's just an indicator that we want to finish this. The high level, we can remove the due date here because the high level tasks, according to ICOR, are no tasks. This is just a container holding the actual action items. That's to overcome subtasks and normal tasks and how to manage them. Again, it's something that we teach in the ICOR methodology in the Project Management Like a Pro course. Here is the Project Management Like a Pro course, and in here you learn all these things like the idea incubator that I just mentioned, and the subtask and normal task and things like that. These are the output elements. So that's where we define exactly what is a project, what is a goal, what are tasks and things like that. So this is what we did here. Okay, so by writing this in capital letters, this means it's just a container holding the actual action items, and action items, the tasks, are always with a verb in front, like create, write, think, review. Okay, that's indicator this is an actual task, whereas this is just a container, or ICOR book is the project. Okay, so that makes it very clear what are the actionable items. So you see, we started writing the book. How did it work on a bird's eye view? We had the idea in the business knowledge management system. As long as it is an idea, you can consider this a knowledge business, because having the idea in the system already, you can keep feeding the idea with updates. Whenever you have any ideas that you want to add, you can do this. And then the moment you convert it into a project, you have a kickstart of knowledge that you don't need to start the moment you convert the idea into a project. And that makes it so powerful having it here. It gives also team access, so everybody can contribute to the idea. And then we start the idea. So I made a very rough draft of the book. Then Paco went ahead and he made a draft. And the thing is, we did this in our PKM system. We don't want to mess around in our team tool with the brainstorming and all this. So we went on Miro, we thought about what would be the book structure and things like that. And then Paco went back, and there's a whole video inside the membership where he explains by sharing the screen and so on, the details, how we created the book. And he shows there that he went to Tana first. That's the shallow thinking system. This is an outliner. He outlined and rearranged the chapters of the book and get a first idea of the structure of the book. But then you start hitting a ceiling in Tana when it comes to deep thinking. You need to not only think vertically, you need to start to think horizontally, and that's where things need to move to a map inside on a board inside Heptabase, where we then can lay out where he was able to lay out the chapters and then start writing, because Heptabase, compared to Miro, what I'm using here, Heptabase is focused on text. So everything that you create in there is with a focus with long form text that can be formatted and things like that. Tana, you cannot properly format text. It is a simple outliner. It's a complex outliner, if you will, but the formatting are very limited. That's why we need to move on here as well. But it's not visible to me until he ended up with a first draft of the book. And this draft ended up in here, in the doc. And now you see here all the chapters from our book, and it's a pretty long one. And you see all these icons, and this is what we just did with our courses as well. So the team knows that this is a doc, work in progress. We use this icon, and when it's finished, when it's reviewed, it's this. So he created all these chapters. Paco created it in August 2024, added this chapter, and then you see on the side here, resolved. And here's the discussion happening, okay? That's the moment where you see three things, and we discussed things, how we define wordings. I brought in chapters and ideas, and that's how we worked together then on the book. But we had a complete different starting point. It was already refined because Paco put in the deep thought on his personal knowledge management system. So the quality of what came into the BKM system in order to work then together with me, where I bring in my thoughts that I had from my PKM system, was a complete different level. So that's what made things so much more efficient, because the discussions are much shorter. Okay, I can trust that Paco put in all the thought already, and that makes it so powerful, and that made us so efficient writing such a comprehensive book in just 7 months. It took longer than we expected, but we kept adding things that we thought they need to be in the book, and then obviously the administrative stuff of launching a book. This is a lot more time consuming, but this is really something that we leveraged a lot. I read through the book, I added the comments, we had back and forth in the comments, and then we ended up here in the Google Doc version and we added just a Google Doc. And because we work with the design team and they need a Google Doc in order to make the Kindle version out of this and so on, there's a handover in this workflow. And this was another intermediate step. However, now the knowledge is in here of the whole book. And now I can ask a ClickUp AI, for example, about the book. However, that's something we still don't believe in an AI that looks at the whole system, because it is always confused when you want to look up things. So what ClickUp did here, now you can actually convert docs like this into wikis and it focuses on this. And again, that's a complete different topic. When we go back to the book project, now you see we worked on all the tasks, and this is a lot related to talking about taxes and how to publish this and also this. And different people are involved on this, as you can see here. But at the same time, we had the focus on the content of the book. We now have always a reference to go back, because this project is the single source of truth about the book. Whenever I need to look up anything related to the book project, I will find it here. And that's the magic, because if I need now the Google Doc, it will be in here. Here it is. And the conversion happened manually. Okay, so you can obviously export this and then bring it into Google Docs and things like that. But this was done manually, chapter by chapter. It was moved into one single Google Doc because that was necessary then to convert it into the Kindle. The reasoning is a lot more complex for formatting and things like that. But as you can see, all we did is now linked here to the Google Doc, to the relevant Google Doc that holds the whole book. And this makes it so powerful because we just link out to additional context. And that's something that we leverage in so many places. Let's go to the YouTube videos. Here we have a long list of all the videos that we've created in this year, for example. Yeah, I can keep going. The thing is, I can go in any random video here, open it up. It is already published. And I have details field here. And these are all custom fields. So I have the video script, if it was a scripted video. I have the blog content. That's something that's completely automated the moment I have this. And we set here complete or to published. It will send this to our Airtable. See, that's another tool that's not appearing on our framework, because things would become too complex, okay? But to just quickly tell you, it sends this to our Airtable, synchronizes with our website, and it gets published automatically using the thumbnail, this, and the title, and many things that happen in the backend. You see here, one click, I immediately go directly to the relevant video. So whenever I need to look up anything like there, I have the newsletter, all the other custom fields, even the YouTube description, and many more things. Here, the timestamp transcript that I can use for AI for better understanding of the chapters. Many things. The thing is, I want to show you here is the external project and the project folder. That's similar to what I just showed you about the Google Doc for the book. So as much as I was going to the project and I find all the relevant information, even externally, it's here for each individual video the same. So for example, in this case, it was an external video editor, a company working on this video. But instead of inviting them into ClickUp, I use their own system so they don't get distracted and are most efficient in their own system. So I create a request in their system, then use the link to this request and add it here. So I have the direct connection to this. So I track the progress and status of my video here. And then whenever I want to look it up with one click, I'm in the other system and see exactly what is going on in the conversations that I had with the video editor. The same applies for the project folder. It is on Dropbox. It's not in ClickUp. It makes no sense to upload 4 GB of raw footage into a task that sits there and is not easy for everybody to access. So I need a sharing cloud platform like Dropbox that makes it not only easy to share with the outside, but also to access it from my own place, because Dropbox is perfectly working here. I can go here. So for example, video editing, YouTube, and here all the raw data, see, that I had for all the different videos. And I'm using this, share it, use the link from this, and this link goes into this custom field, and boom, I have a single source of truth for this one video. And whenever I need to look up something related to this video, I will have everything in one click away. However, everything needs to be streamlined. I want to clutter all the things up with irrelevant information, and that's why it's so important to get the understanding that there's a difference between PKM and BKM. Then I fill up the BKM, the Business Knowledge Management System, with the relevant information, but also the action gets then planned out inside ClickUp. Now the question is, what is PPM? Personal Project Management or Task Management? The difference is the same as for personal knowledge management. You might have a meeting with the team discussing the high-level priorities. What is the goals that we have and what we want to achieve this week? So according to ICOR, we believe in there's only one meeting necessary per week. And that's what we have. That's what I did in corporate. That's what we did with so many clients. If everything is clear, the system is set up properly, you only need to have one update meeting per week. There shouldn't be any reason to have another meeting asking for the same information for the hundredths of time and interrupting other people's work. Everything can be asynchronous. There's nothing that couldn't wait until next week. And if there are unexpected events happening and urgent things coming in, those are defined. They really need to be urgent and not just something that is for optimization or things like that. What usually happens, like the, hey, got a minute guy coming into the office and telling you from a brilliant idea, which should actually end up in the idea incubator to be discussed maybe next week or even end of quarter when we look at the ideas again. So the question, is ClickUp enough to manage your personal tasks too? You could start this way, but then you might start realizing that ClickUp is way too slow when it comes to managing quick tasks. What about these floating tasks, this shallow work that you have to do on a daily basis? So there are things, again, with the ICOR template that we apply to ClickUp, which in fact, instead of restricting the system, we are actually removing just unnecessary features from ClickUp, that's it, and ordering things into projects, work streams, and operations. Again, if you want to learn about this, it's the output elements that you learn inside the project management, like a pro course inside the membership. There we talk about all the details here. But you see here, there's an operations folder, and here there are the different elements for our business that might look different for yours, obviously, where we can have individual tasks being added that don't fit into a work stream or a project, as you can see here. These are just some additional updates to make. Very short things to do. What we also do is, if people really want to have this personal task work here as well, we have everything set up in a way that these statuses in progress, urgent, and speedy. So the moment I switch this to urgent, it is pretty obvious with the red dot. But if I set this now to due date, for example, today, and then assigning me, and I go now to our custom view on top here, this week, it shows me all the tasks that are due this week and split by the person. And here we have post custom launch campaign. And I see immediately by a red dot, this is really urgent. And this means business continuity is in danger. We have to focus on this no matter that we have some milestones which indicate the must do task for this week. And if I switch this to speedy, it just indicates that this is a task that takes less than 15 minutes. And that's something we usually don't do in here. We do this in, at least Paco and I do this in Todoist. Let's bring in Todoist, and we have another Ariel, and she is asking, hi, if you create your scripts in ClickUp Docs, it would help ClickUp Brain, right? I'm not so sure about this, if it would really help the ClickUp Brain. We saw many limitations when it comes to the ClickUp Brain. Also, it is one of the best implementations, I would say, of AI inside a project management tool. However, we are using external AI in order to refine, and as I said, for example, ChatGPT, we can bring in here as well. Bring this in, ChatGPT. We have custom GPTs in ChatGPT that are trained for specific tasks, and that's where we work inside ChatGPT. And the outcome from ChatGPT, so that's why we consider this also a utility app. We use it as an intermediate step before the information moves on to the final destination. So I might come up with a draft script, and then I refine it in ChatGPT in order to bring the final version into ClickUp for then to use it with teleprompter. That would be the workflow. I would never use the internal ClickUp in order to help me work on these scripts, for example, because they are not customizable enough. So I'm using ChatGPT, custom GPTs, prompts, and things like that. I could make a whole live session just about the AI part. And that's why it's considered a utility app and not a core application, because if would it disappear tomorrow, I would move on to another AI tool that I have, or do my scripts manually and use my English skills in order to refine this. But that's right now the setup. And using ClickUp AI in order to find things, we are really having trouble to find the things. If I ask for comments or what was the last outcome and things like that, this usually doesn't work properly. It is what it is, and they can say whatever they want about the AI. It is still faster if you have a proper structure inside project management and you know where to go to find the relevant information in your single source of truth, which is the task, for example. And I can expect now there is the conversation happening. I will find it 100% faster than using normal search or using AI. So bringing in Todoist now, this is the place where private life and the work life also overlap. So in here, you would find things that I have to do in private life, woodworking tasks, things like do on the farm. We are living on a farm, so there are things that are there to do here as well. But at the same time, tasks that I need to keep in mind, and they are quick to do administrative tasks that would be too overloading the ClickUp system. So it's similar to this, okay? So this is not something that necessarily needs to show up in ClickUp, but I shouldn't lose control over. And in my case, mainly it is related to work only speedies, shallow work that are done very quickly, but I need to have a proper list. And we come to this when we bring in the missing piece here. First of all, the calendar. We are using Google Workspace, and therefore we are having the Google Calendar. And if you're in Microsoft, I'm sorry for you. I know that many of you have no choice. And that's where we also even had Inner Circle members where we built up a productivity system completely based on Microsoft. If you're stuck in there, it's no excuse not to being able to implement ICOR and take the most out of the system that you have in place. And it's all based on the same tool agnostic principles, starting with understanding the concept about the single source of truth and all the other concepts that we are talking about. So when you finish the ICOR journey, there is then a magic slide that shows you also an overview of all the different concepts and workflows that we teach inside the ICOR methodology, and that builds up a productivity system end to end. So again, if you would be stuck in Microsoft, you would apply it the same way as anywhere else. The key is always to understand why you're using the tools and leverage the features they provide in the best way possible. And usually people are thinking the tool is the solution, and they watch a YouTube video and they get excited about all the features they see, but they never zoom out and think about the overall system as we do here. And that's actually key to understand why do you use the tool, which also then justifies that you're paying for this tool as well. So we talked about this last time, paying for Superhuman, a premium. It's totally worth it if you're saving a lot of time each day. If you don't save time with a tool, then probably you're wasting money for sure. And if you are using 4 different task managers and you're paying subscriptions for all 4 and you scatter your information and action in all these tools and don't know where to find the things, there's no reason to blame the company that they're charging for it. It's you to be blamed that you haven't thought about what tool is it that you really need and then focus on this one tool to make the most out of it. We are using multiple tools here as well, but each tool has a specific purpose. And we could force, for example, just use ClickUp for everything. But then, as I explained, there are then situations where you might better be off using a separate tool in order to this specific task most efficiently, and then use another tool in order to do this. Another example was ChatGPT, right? Much better to use than the ClickUp AI in order to create content. Or Miro, much better to work together with the team or here in the live stream to explain new things compared to the whiteboards and Heptabase. So people would ask, why? Miro has also whiteboards. Why are you using Hep? Then you didn't get the concept behind the 2 tools, because here I'm having a PKM system. I'm connecting information together, being on the whiteboard, and well, I talked a lot about this in the last live stream. So here it's the same thing. Now I have tasks in here. I have tasks that was assigned to me by the team in here. So how make I clear what I need to actually work on and what I need to focus on? What's the highest priority in these tasks? And that's the moment where people struggle again, because they have different systems with different information and tasks in there, and then they struggle to bring everything together in order to understand what they need to work on next. So that's where usually a piece of paper comes into the game, where they write down all the tasks and then they say, okay, these are the 10 tasks I want to do this week. And then they work through this task list, and then they add up with the conclusion that paper is so much better because they need to have this in your face feeling and things like that. To me, it's just an indicator that there is no proper digital system in the end. And that's the reason why people fall back to paper. It's always the case. Once you have a system up and running that runs on autopilot and is not distracting your work and giving you you friction for your work, then you will be happy to have a digital system in the place because it's accessible from anywhere. It at any time gives you the information what to do next and things like that. And another missing piece that many people miss in a system like this is the understanding that there is a difference between a calendar and a planner. And I will just throw in the planner that we are using in here, and in order then to explain what this is all about. We are using Sansama, and we know many of our members are using Sansama as well when they come to the same conclusion. But there are also other planners out there. For example, Ekiflow is something people are using as well. The key is that the thing that is restricting you every day is time. And the task list is always infinite, and a calendar day is finite. And you have to match these two so you know what to plan out what. And that's where people do time blocking. And then they go to the calendar. And then they use these direct integrations from Todoist and ClickUp and connect the calendar with the task management tool. So these tasks start appearing on your calendar, while in fact you're just seeing due dates on the calendar. So the moment you move the things on the calendar around, it changes the due dates of the task as well, while the due date might have been actually the final deadline and not the due date where you would have actually worked on the task. Maybe you need several days to work on this task. So this is where the mess happens. People try to schedule out all the tasks in a day, usually more that they could ever achieve. And then at a detail level at 15 minutes, right? So there's like the speedies. Every 15 minutes you're doing another task. Elon Musk, I don't know if he said it or somebody said that he would do it this way. I don't believe either that he planned out every 15 minutes of the day. In positions like Elon Musk and even in our position and so on, there's so many unexpected events happening. There are so many tasks that you either overestimated or underestimated how much it takes, that the moment you start your day with a planned out calendar of a 15-minute slots, it is already outdated the moment you start working on it. And that's a fact. Prove me wrong. Okay, show me your calendar and tell me that this is filled up for 8 to 10 hours each day and you stick to this schedule every day. The moment the next task comes in, you start working on the other task and things like that. How do you handle unexpected events? How do you see when meetings come in that you have time? What about reprioritization when a new task comes in that might be more important than the task that you had to? You keep moving things around. And another thing that adds to this equation is that people treat shallow work as it would be deep work for the whole day. And that's why it's called a busy professional, which is the bad version of the busy professional. It's not bad to be busy. It's great if you're busy the whole day if you work on the things that matter. It's bad if you're busy the whole day just doing shallow work and feeling unaccomplished in the evening when you finish the day. And why is this? Because you had no focus on the things that matter. You didn't even know what it was that you should work on. You have a feeling there are some tasks that keep, you postpone them for another week, but you're not clear. There will be maybe a deadline in 3 months and you keep moving them and you keep being busy the whole day, answering emails, taking on new opportunities. It's sometimes much easier to make optimization work or watch YouTube videos and implement a new PKM system and then nurture it for 3 hours. And then you've been just doing work about work. And that's why you need a planner to stay in control of all this. And a planner should be very clear and easy to read. And now let's go into Sansama as I use it. But one final thing here, Sansama brings everything together in our case. The ClickUp tasks, they show up inside Sansama. The Todoist tasks, they show up inside Sansama. And the calendar is also showing up in Sansama. So this means that's my central hub when it comes to action to know exactly what to do because I planned out all these things related to the time restriction that I have. So if we go to Sansama, it looks currently like this. And you see here Wednesday, okay? This is today, go to today. This is Wednesday. And there's just one thing in there. Well, there are some completed things already. And here is what I'm doing the next days and things like that. And I remember I was sharing my screen already back then, showing Sansama, and people called me out in the comments. You say you talk about busy professionals and look at your planner, you're not busy at all. And this is where people clearly don't get the point about what a planner really is. I don't want to have clutter in a planner. And yes, Paco's planner managing 4 businesses might be fuller in here as he's interacting with a lot of people, while I'm mainly in workstream mode for paperless movement. But trust me, when I was working in corporate for 10 to 13 hours each day, 6 days a week, while building a side hustle, the paperless movement, at the same time, and this for 8 years, this looked different, okay? So I know what I'm talking about. And here is the key. It just shows me what I need to do and then points me to the thing where I get all the information I need to do, when I need to do it and what I need to do. So here it is with the routines, and we advocate routines over and over again. So for example, the morning routine, I have personal things in there. Do morning stoic, watch this video, that's a motivational thing. Do HIIT meditation, but then also we have plan ClickUp, check video schedule, okay? Plan Todoist, check chat. I know what this is. I don't need to give you a tutorial to give you all the details because this is very personal. Nobody else should see this. We are here in the personal project management area as much as we are in the personal knowledge management area. Nobody should care how you do this as long you stay in control of what you need to do. But a checklist like this, it works. You will be surprised how many times you would forget to do certain things because you usually dive right in, you go to the emails, you start answering for 4 hours in the morning, the emails, your energy is already gone. Then you think about the deep task that you need to work on, the deep work task, and so on. So for me, this is not energy that I waste here related to this plan ClickUp and plan Todoist, because it is just planning out to check if everything is updated so I know what I need to do during the day. And you see already, check video schedule. This is the work stream mode. And this is the deep work stuff, okay? Usually I set it to 3 hours, maybe it's 4 hours, maybe sometimes the whole day. It depends on, because now that I'm focusing fully on the paperless movement, I can leverage the whole day in order to keep working on this. And that's why this planner is not full with stuff, but only important things that are besides the workstream mode. And workstream mode is what we are doing here, my friends. The live stream is part of the workstream mode, okay? I'm doing right now a 1 to 2 hour live stream, which is not here, okay? It is this here, right? That's the what's on the schedule, but it is just an indicator that I'm working on here. Usually it's not even showing up here because creating other YouTube videos, creating the course videos, doing support with the community, being in a community, content creation for social media, all these things are not on here. I don't want to have all the details here, especially if it is a work stream. And there you see the difference between a work stream and a project. A work stream might be as complex as a project, but it is recurring. So this allows you to optimize this over and over again to streamline work. And therefore, when I go to work stream, I see here a link, go to ClickUp and start working in work streams. Okay, I click here, boom. I'm going to ClickUp and it opens up the workstream area that you see previously, where you see all the videos and so on that need to be edited and that I need to schedule and things like that. And therefore I know perfectly when I go to YouTube videos and I go to videos, I know exactly what I need to work on next. Here, that's the editing mode. I go here, okay, what about this? What's the status? Boom, I have here a link to click and it opens up the descript that I'm using to edit the video in this case. It goes directly to the video and I can now just start editing the video. You see, this was seconds of getting into work, all based on the single source of truth and the cross-linking of information. And I don't need to have this here, that this specific video I need to edit today. I don't care. I need to know that I need to have 3 hours in order to work on this right now. And then the afternoon routine. This is where the shallow work happens. This is where I go in and process my emails. This is where I process my mail, the physical mail. This is where I process the Todoist, which holds the shallow work, okay? And this is planned for 1 hour because, as I said earlier, your task list is infinite and usually that's based on the shallow work that is filling up these lists so long. And that's why I try to do 1 hour in order to focus on doing as much as possible of all the shallow work. Maybe there's sometimes some shallow work that I batch together, like uploading invoices for the accounting team. So if I would do this stop and go between deep work and things like that, I could do this. And I do this whenever I have an email with an invoice. I directly forwarded it because it takes me a few seconds. But sometimes there are invoices. I need to go into the system, download this. So I batch these tasks together and do them in my afternoon routine in this shallow work then, for example. And this is it, that's my planner. So how this works is now, I'm not using this on a calendar view, what a lot of people do. People say, and I see it over and over in reviews as well, when they use this in a calendar view, it's a great calendar alternative. What the heck? Your calendar is based either on Google Workspace or it's based on Microsoft in most cases. And that might be the reason for some exotic things that you can do because you have the option to. But if you're a professional, you're usually using one of these two, Google Calendar calendar or the Microsoft Outlook calendar. And then you're using a satellite app as we described it last time. And Sansama could be also seen as a satellite app. It is just enhancing the view of the information that is living inside the core applications. So this means if I remove this tomorrow, the information still remains. I still have my meetings on my calendar. I still have my tasks in the task manager, and I still have the projects and tasks in ClickUp. So this wouldn't hurt. However, as I also add these routines in there, and if you plan out the things that would actually break your planning, that's why we also consider this a core application. And as I told you last time, core applications are hard to replace. The moment you remove one of these tools, it would hurt because you need to think first of all what other tool I'm using and how to get the information that you had earlier into the new tool and things like that. And that helps you to stay focused on the tools as much as possible until you really think to not get a new tool, but maybe another tool in addition to work in parallel for a specific use case, as I explained it here in the PKM system. So this is really the most basic system. So we could even remove this and this, okay? If we do it this way, this is the system it would perfectly run. It couldn't be simpler if you know how to set these things up to have a system like this. You might have a system that is just looking like this. You cannot live without a calendar and a planner and a task manager and a PKM tool. You can live, but then you shouldn't complain that you cannot scale what you did for the last 40 years and now you have to take down opportunities and you're overwhelmed and you feel exhausted and all these things if you're not leveraging this. And yes, you can do this on paper-based, but there will be people who use these and leverage these tools, and they will always be ahead of the game, no doubt. And we have to become, at the Paperless Movement, vocal about this because you're missing out. With the current tool set that we have already, if you don't start thinking outside the box and not always in the physical world, where we have the physical folders and you put a paper into one physical folder, as I showed you in another live stream where I talked about the history of note-taking, then you're missing out opportunities. If you're happy as it is, that's great, and then keep doing it if you have no suffering. But if you're suffering and you're close to burnout or you already had a burnout, these are the things because the systems are making things more complicated. You're doing more work about work. You keep searching for information and lose time by not having information ready the moment you need it. And many things that come together and accumulate if you don't have a properly set up system. So if you're starting from scratch, we always recommend to focus on one tool only and try to leverage it as much as possible until you really hit the ceiling with what you want to do. But first of all, maybe you start thinking about what you're actually doing in a tool agnostic way. That's what we teach inside the Automation Like a Pro course, where we advocate that it's not about automating things and connecting tools together is the key, but to understand your business processes in a tool agnostic way. What are you doing every day? And now you say, I know what I'm doing every day. I was living this for 8 years in big corporate with 300,000 employees that I knew nobody really knew what they are doing because they were just doing it as they always did it for the past decade. And that's where you usually bring in consultants to the company who sit down then with the whole team trying to figure out what you're doing on a daily basis to give you then a map of processes that you can use to optimize or the consultant uses then to optimize. And there you have no problem then as a company owner to invest thousands of dollars for these consultants to figure out what you're actually doing instead of just sitting down yourself with the team and invest the time to do it. It's counterintuitive when you think about it, that it's always possible to free up time to sit down for a consultant because now we have to optimize the company, but there's never time available to do these things on your own. And I saw this many times, not only working myself in corporate, but also working with many other thousands of clients over the years in different industries, different company sizes. It doesn't matter. You see it over and over again. Why? Because it's not your expertise to understand business processes. You're an expert. You're doing things that you're an expert in. So that's something you just do more and more. So you don't think really about this works on a daily basis. And if you've been doing this for years already, there's also not the urge to optimize things. So either you're an expert inside a company and your boss starts to say, now we have to save money and time, and they force you to do this, this. Or you want to take on more opportunities and need to free up time, and you cannot do more of the same things that you did so far. And that's where there's always room for improvement and optimized processes. And that's what we learn in here. And there's also examples of business owners that I showed here. If you're interested, this is all part of the ICOR journey. And in general, if you're interested to actually join us, you can join for free the membership, as many of you guys inside the chat. I know that I see also Inner Circle members there, and we see lifetime members in here. Welcome back. But you can also upgrade to this and lifetime access into the ICOR Journey cohort right now. And the offer is ending in December 31st. So if you don't want to miss out, this is the opportunity that you have a $200 off from the upgrade right now to joining the ICOR Journey cohort. So if you go to the website, you see this actually here, join for free. And here we go. That's the 20% off right now, where you can join the ICOR Journey cohort. And this not only includes the lifetime access, which is not available outside this and usually only available with the Inner Circle program, but you will also join the first and only cohort for 2025, where we have these 5 of 90-minute live sessions with Paco and me together, where we walk together through the ICOR journey week by week, focusing on a specific part of your productivity system. And that's only available until December 31st. So if you're interested, that's the best moment to join. And in the chat, we got Ariel. She said, I tried ClickUp for personal tasks and I didn't like it. TickTick is a lot faster and less complicated in my smartphone. Capture Quick Task is better. It can integrate with 2 Google Calendars. I like to do is cleaner UI, but it cannot integrate with 2 Google Calendars at the same time. So I just mentioned about the Google Calendars. It's not integrated in any of my task managers. If it works for you, that's great. So you probably want to see both calendars at the same time together with your tasks, so you can plan them better out. And then it makes sense. But if this is becoming too complex, that's where a planner usually comes into play, because there I can integrate as many calendars I want in Sansama, while I can show up Todoist or also take ClickUp, Linear, Asana all in one place and make sense of this. That's why this is so powerful. And Fred says Evernote ? And I really love questions like this, where I get just a single word and a question mark. I'm happy to answer, but maybe you can give me some more context, then it's easier to answer. I can now think about what you mean about this, but I'm being so sarcastic about this, as I talked many times about this, when people actually ask on social media for the best note-taking app, and people answer with one word: Evernote, Apple Notes, Obsidian, Notion. It is completely out of context, because people need to know what they need in order to get the best recommendation what they should need. And even then, it's hard to really recommend the best tool for you without getting the full picture, as I just showed you here. So if your question was if we are using Evernote, then I can tell you I used Evernote for nearly 10 years, as it was first of all one of the first note-taking and PKM tools out there that were really easy to access on all the devices. It had the OCR, and I talked about this a lot in the other video where I talked about the history of note-taking from 2025, and it had a first OCR, so I used it mainly with my document scanner to scan directly my documents into Evernote, because I was able then to later on, whenever I needed anything, to search for it. And that was the only reason I was using Evernote as a document dump. It never became a proper note-taking tool for me. It was too restrictive, it was too close to a piece of paper, and that's why I never saw the advantage of using Evernote in this case. And I started using handwriting note-taking apps on the iPad instead, until Rome Research came out, Notion, and all these things. That's where I moved on to another PKM system, because I was then able to leverage features like cross-linking, backlinking, all these things that are beyond the physical world. And that's why Evernote had such a hard time to survive, and well, eventually nearly died until Bending Spoons came in and revived the elephant somewhat. But let's see how far they will come, because the implementations they did in Evernote then was still strange to me, because they went down the road so many other apps did to become the all-in-one solution, adding task management in there, connecting the calendar to my PKM system. What the heck? If you have a simple life, then it's great to use one tool for all these things to see it in one place. But if it becomes more complex, then this is always coming to a situation where you hit a ceiling. So for one example would be also in Heptabase, right? Heptabase added now task management as well, more or less. So you can very quickly create tasks in your notes, and you have a list of all the tasks on the side, and can even add due dates to these tasks. But then it's too limited to make proper task management in there. I cannot get these tasks out there and things like that. So I also had a discussion with a Notion guru. I'm not using his name. However, I was arguing about Notion, that Notion doesn't have recurring tasks back then. And his argument was, then just untick the checkbox and then tick it again. And I thought, what the heck? If I have tools out there that have proper task management and project management, why should I force myself to build workarounds for a tool that is not made for this purpose? And now we see Notion integrating calendar, or buying the calendar, becoming the email solution, and all these things. Let's see how this works out. At least they're using specific tools for this, so it starts to make sense. But trying to make everything in one tool, it never worked. And that's why people start things like this. They get excited. And I was one of these in Notion to build a LiveOS system and things like that, where everything is managed inside this one tool. But life is much more complex. And as the moment you have a business and you have many juggling tasks and all these things, these systems usually slow you down instead of becoming more efficient. And that's usually the moment where people then go back to a Franklin planner and using a piece of paper, because they didn't get the point how to use the digital system. And that's not my opinion. This is based on all the experience that we had personally and together with our members. Okay, Fred, thank you very much. You said thank you, so it seems I answered your question. Thanks so much. Guys, I hope this was interesting and insightful for you, because that's the key that I was sharing here, the tool stack we are using. And if you go to our website, there is the tools we use, and here as well, there are the tools we use, and there are more tools. I didn't even add the Dropbox. Also, I talked about Dropbox. We are also using G Drive, but only for specific documents, so they're not duplicated on these places. We just killed Slack recently after using Slack for 7 years. 7 years, 150,000 messages, all these things we left behind because ClickUp implemented the chat functionality in there, and we didn't just blindly go to ClickUp now and kill the other tool. We always approach it the same way. We use the things in parallel. We use the tool-agnostic processes that we applied to our team communication system inside Slack and tried to do the same inside ClickUp chat. And to our own surprise, we realized it actually offers all the features that we are asking for to keep our communication up to date, with the advantage to have everything in one place. So whenever we talk about a task or anything inside ClickUp, we can always easily reference it. Also, there was great integrations inside Slack and it was perfect. However, this way we are able to remove one tool, we are saving money, and we don't miss anything. And Slack is now concentrating on rolling out project management features and business knowledge management features with the canvases and all these things. It becomes too blurry. If they would have focused on communication and make it even better than they've already been, we might still be in Slack because they might have an advantage over another tool. But ClickUp, like I explained you earlier in this live stream, gave enough to switch from Slack to ClickUp, like we went from Notion to ClickUp for the business knowledge management system. And thanks so much. Holger says, impressive. You are a powerhouse, Tom. I love you too, Holger. Nice to see you again in this live stream. And here we have Zapier. And oh boy, Zapier is certainly a tool mastery course I want to create. We are now starting to create tool mastery courses. This means these will be courses that focus on the feature set of the tool rather than the tool agnostic approaches. I know that you guys want to really see how do you leverage Heptabase to the max? How do you do Tana and so on? And these courses are coming and they will be free of charge for any of our lifetime members. As I mentioned, if you upgrade to a lifetime access, either through the ICOR Journey cohort or the Inner Circle cohort, you will get free access to these courses. But even as a normal paid membership, the recurring one, you will get free access to all these courses. That's our promise that we made in 2018 and we keep giving this way. However, these tool agnostic courses will also be individually available for purchase. What tool mastery course would you like to see first? What should I focus on to create for you guys first? Heptabase, Tana, and obviously these will be only tool mastery courses about the tools that we are personally using, because I think only then it makes real sense, because we fully leverage this. I'm sure I can talk about a lot of tools that we are not using too, but that makes no sense to make tool mastery courses out of them. So Heptabase, Tana, Todoist, ClickUp and Sansama and Zapier and Superhuman. These are the tools, mastery courses I'm already focusing on and want to create as soon as possible. But what would be the one that you would like to see first? Let me know in the comments. And if you don't want any, then let me know too. Everybody, I thank you so much for attending part 2 of building the productivity system. And I hope it was helpful also for you, even that you're not using these tools, but better understand why we are using the tools, so you get a better understanding why you're using the tools that you're using. And if you're still in doubt, then I invite you to join the Paperless Movement membership. If you join for free, you go to the ICOR Journey Start, and here is the session where we talk about the ICOR framework. You can download your own ICOR framework and start laying out your tools and get a better understanding of your tool stack. And then let's go to the member tool stacks, and there you can share your tool stack to start a discussion about your specific tools. As we have hundreds of members already have shared their tools here, I'm happy to see more and more people coming in and sharing their tool stacks here as well. And this should give you the kickstart when it comes to getting a clear mind about your tool stack. Thanks so much, everybody.